Greetings, YouTube. Thankfully, Kabam has done one beta test in the past year of Carnage and Venom, and sticking to the pattern of choosing 2 champs per class. They are now in the process of beta testing the hopefully soon-to-be buffed She-Hulk and Spider-Gwen. We've already seen Spider-Gwen's new special one, which at least does some damage and looks pretty cool, right? So the question becomes, let's say Kabam wants to target each class and do just a couple more beta tests in the next year or so. Who should be buffed? Essentially, what are the biggest trash champions in the game? Who needs it the most? So I've asked around, from Alliance members to other members of the community, who their votes were. Some votes are fairly obvious. Others, I think, are a little bit more on the wild card side. But I thought it'd be kind of fun to talk about, hopefully, in the next few beta tests in 2019 and even 2020, who we should get buffed. So I want to start with a class that needs it so desperately, and that is the mutant class. And let's start, and I'm saying this a little bit in terms of bias because I have him as a 6-star, but it is rare to see a champion that gets more instant hatred than when you land on a Deadpool X-Force. My boy Dooley Ray has landed on this 6-star not once but twice. And I gotta say, it's Deadpool, right? It should be a great champion to land on. You should get excited to land on Deadpool, and yet because of the nature of the designs of this champion, you can't be. You can't be. That's like getting excited to get smallpox. It's just not going to happen. So, first and foremost, I think Deadpool deserves the kind of region at worst that Old Balls Logan has, but maybe even better, right? Imagine if this guy did 50 region per tick when he was fighting. That would be pretty amazing. I also think, if nothing else, Deadpool X-Force should stack bleeds like, say, Black Panther OG or even someone like Drax. Allow this guy to have 5, 6, 7 stacks of bleed. Give him some bleed-like damage that Venom or even Carnage got in their betas, and make him so much better and so much more exciting. And anyone like me who happens to have a 6-star of him will instantly be so much more excited. And he's already a synergy with my 6-star Domino. So on paper, he would just be a way too obvious but very much needed option. Now, some of you saw the mutant class and thought to yourselves, he has to talk about this champion. And I know who you're going to talk about. So let's just scroll down, all the way down, and finally get ourselves a hold of this guy. Oh, Colossus. A champion that, again, you shouldn't feel bad. In theory, if I was to tell a friend who knew nothing about Marvel Contest of Champions, I just pulled the Colossus and be like, oh, he's probably pretty good. Yeah, no, he's terrible. And I know for a fact that Kabam realizes that Colossus needs a buff. And I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of the year a beta test came out, because I was at New York Comic-Con and I heard a couple people from Kabam joking, hey, if anybody wants to take down the boss when you get your ticket opportunity to spin the wheel, try it with the Colossus. You know, when they suggest that, they know how bad that champion is. And Colossus was the one that they were trying to get the quote-unquote best champions to leave, and the best players to try at Colossus to take him down. So Colossus, first and foremost, should be a tank. I'm thinking Colossus should be harder to take down than Emma Frost. This guy's armor should be insane. He should have so many modes where it's hard to take any damage at all. And then on top of that, if you're going to keep the animations, even though I think they're really terrible, they've got to cause way more damage, right? And I think that they should at least have a chance to cause some stun, because right now the specials are a joke, the damage is a joke, the whole champion design is a joke, and that's why it's almost a rite of passage right now to land on a Colossus, to have a Colossus thrown your way, and to just have to hide the bleach in the household. Now we're going to move from the 2 champs in the mutant class that I think need a buff the most to the 2 champs in the cosmic class that need a buff the most. And I want to concentrate on the non-king version of Groot. That's right. Again, I think if you were to tell a friend who knew nothing about the Marvel Universe besides the movies, hey, I just landed on Groot, they'd be like, oh, cool, that's awesome. And then you'd be like, no, it's not. This is another champion that I don't know why you have to depend on regeneration given the nature of Groot's abilities in the comics for a special 2. Groot should automatically regen health per tick. It just makes sense. That's what Groot does. And on top of that, he should hit really hard. There shouldn't be this really annoying, just terrible damage. We'll say the wet noodle effect, if you will. And on top of that, you had to know, that I wasn't going to talk about the Cosmic class without talking about Satan herself, Kamala Khan. Now, I do realize that Kamala Khan is 565 for at least one summoner who has shown that when you take her up to 565, she can do some pretty insane damage. So I don't want to say she's the worst of the worst, but in general, her animations are so trash. She is such a terrible defender. She deserves better than what Kabam has made her into. And so between Groot and Satan herself, it's just obvious to me that she could use a buff. And that completes the Cosmic section because I'm trying to get through these fairly quickly. Now let's go to Tech. And I'm sure some people could predict, think in your head who I'm going to talk about in just a second, if you haven't already thought. If you haven't seen the thumbnail, who do you think I'm going to pick? Oh, yeah. It's Mr. Hulk Bust My Balls. This is another champion that Kabam in the last 2 years of New York Comic Con, because I saw them talk about it in a separate video in the 2017 version of NYCC. They know that ever since Willpower was changed, HULKBUSTER and Joe Fixit, for that matter, have lost their utility. HULKBUSTER, if you think Colossus should be a tank, this guy, he was built to stop the Hulk. I don't think he'd stop a cold at this point. Now, I will say I love HULKBUSTER's Special 3. He was one of my best champions back in the day, one of my best 4-stars, and I would just save up my power to the Special 3, wait until I got around Assassin's range of 18 to 20% health, and then I'd use the Special 3, and I'd win the fight, especially in Alliance Quest when it was a timed 3-minute battle. But in general, HULKBUSTER deserves to be better, needs to be better, should be better, and I hope he's better, especially as a tank in this game. Now, speaking of hopefully better, I would be remiss to not talk about this guy, Mr. Iron Patriot. I feel like he's a poor man's version of regular Iron Man, and Iron Man's not even good. I just feel like if Iron Patriot was taken out of the game, it may take days for anybody to notice. He just doesn't seem like he has that much of a utility. He's kind of thrown in. I feel like the creators got really lazy. They thought about nostalgia and patriotism and thought, hey, if we do an Iron Man skin as Iron Patriot, that some people will buy it. I do appreciate how long his Special 1 is. He does have, of course, the same Special 2 animation as, say, a Black Bolt. But in general, this champion needs a complete revamp and deserves a complete revamp. So those are my two nominees, HULKBUSTER and Iron Patriot, for the Tech class. Now we're going to jump to the Skill class. And I want to say on the top that one of the most recommended buffs is both versions, but I'm going to concentrate especially on the one that I hate the most by far, and that is the Netflix version of Daredevil, who I have opened not once but twice. Netflix Daredevil, I feel like, doesn't have a purpose in this game. Yes, he can cause some pretty nice armor breaks, but he doesn't have the guaranteed evade at the high sig that his brother OG Daredevil has, and both of them hit really, really soft. It takes a long time for them to cause the kind of damage that you would want them to cause, and Daredevil is really, really amazing in, like, say, the Netflix show, ironically. So this guy needs to hit a lot harder. I'm thinking his specials need to be improved. I would love to see in the comments below what you think the specials could evolve into. I know we have a lot of Netflix Daredevil, as in the show, fans out there. And then besides him, when it comes to the skill class, a guy that I just hate landing on, and yet I always seem to find my way to this champion, is Mr. Falcon. This is a champion that just is not appreciated in this game. And somehow, when I saw the latest Avengers, when I saw Thanos, I feel like Falcon was doing more damage in that movie than, like, Vision, which shocked me. But Falcon in this game just really is pretty useless. I realize there are a couple utilities, a couple situations where he does better than other champs, but in general, I would never tell someone to rank up their Falcon over so many other champs in the skill class, even to champions like, of course, Crossbones or OG Black Panther. So Falcon deserves a buff. Now, we have covered most of the classes, I'm not covering science for the sake of this video because we are doing science now with She-Hulk and Spider-Gwen, but it is only fair that we go to what I think from top to bottom is the best class. It's very hard to see champions of the Mystic class that have the same need to be buffed as the other classes. But with that being said, if I was to choose the bottom 2 champs of this class, it would be Iron Fist, who I think with the stacked armor breaks is still pretty darn good, but we could see an even better effect, maybe even an effect of, say, more chance or a better chance or a chance to stun the opponent. Imagine stacking those armor breaks with a stun ability. Now that would be pretty OP. And then somebody that already stuns pretty well is Thor Jane Foster, but I think in general she is the least appreciated member of this community, of this class, and I know this because she was in the meme challenge because she was the least chosen Mystic champion when we had the community dollar crystal last December, like over a year ago. It's hard to believe it's already been a year. But in general, I think she has some great utility, and this is the class that needs these buffs the least. But if I was to choose 2 champs from it, it would be Iron Fist and Thor Jane Foster. And if you love Thor Jane Foster like I do, how would you improve her? What would you do to make her even better? So as a recap, the mutant class, Deadpool X-Force, Colossus, Cosmic, Satan herself, Kamala Khan, and OG Groot, Tech, HULKBUSTER, Iron Patriot, Skill, Netflix Daredevil, although some people wanted to say both versions of Daredevil, and then Falcon, and then last but not least, Mystic with Iron Fist and the person you see in front of you, Thor Jane Foster. My goal was to get all these champs in and discussed in under 15 minutes. We are not even at 12 minutes right now. At the time of recording this, I'm excited to say that even though I talked a little fast, we got a lot of these champs in. Who did I miss? And how would you maybe change or buff the champs that I did name? Comment below and let me know. And as always, I appreciate your feedback in this growing evolution of hopefully soon to come more beta tests from Kabam.